started with our presentations. My name is Kathy Inger. I'm the executive, and go ahead and continue to eat because we are getting started a little late with the food. So go ahead and continue eating as we go forward. You don't need to stop as we begin speaking, so just keep going. A warm welcome to each of you from the Northern Lights Library Network Governing Board. We are so happy that you're here today. Northern Lights Library Network is a cooperative network of members in academic, public, school, and special libraries in 23 counties of North Central, Northwest, and West Central Minnesota. A lot of people don't know what Northern Lights Library Network is, and so whenever I go places or have conversations, I always have to do a short elevator speech and say, this is who we are and what we do. Members here in the 23 counties from all types of libraries work at the grassroots level to bring together all types of libraries and collections in the region to discover, enhance, and share resources. Libraries in the region receive administrative, technological, and educational support from Northern Lights Library Network. We are funded by the Minnesota State Legislature, so we're very happy to have Senator Kent Eakin and Representative Lean here today so that you can see what are some of the activities that you're funding in this region, which is very exciting. Our funding comes through the Minnesota Department of Education. One thing we all have in common here today is service. We all serve the citizens of the state of Minnesota. And today we celebrate libraries and what they do for our communities. Libraries are at the core of a democratic society, defending the freedom of all citizens to access information, to make informed decisions, to read material that interests them, and to use technology successfully. Libraries also are the place where people engage in lifelong learning. Someone said to me recently, libraries are free tuition, essentially. You know, you can go to a library and you don't have to pay tuition, but you can learn. And you can learn about anything that you want to learn about. As valued and trusted civic resources, libraries bring people together to access knowledge through the use of physical space, technology, and skilled staff. And some of the things I'm saying right now are directly from our values statements. Minnesota citizens from all walks of life and representing every socioeconomic group come together in libraries. In libraries, people join together in nonpartisan ways in impartial environments. So if people can't cross the aisle in Congress, we can in public libraries or in academic, school, and special libraries. Conversations with legislators, such as Library Luncheon with Legislators, form positive working relationships between legislators and librarians, ensuring ongoing library support for constituents in our region. We actively seek ongoing support for libraries in order to improve service delivery and continue to serve citizens in our state adequately. Today, we are missing a couple of people. Representative Nornis was going to be here, but his wife's nephew passed away, and he's meeting with friends and family in the Twin Cities. So we wish him the best and give him our best. Our sympathy goes out to him and his family. Brittany Goodman, who is the director here at MSUM, wanted to be here today, but she also is at a funeral out of town this afternoon. And Christy Harms, who's with the Northwest Regional Library System, and they do an amazing job with very few resources in the Northwest area of Minnesota. She's out sick today. So we give them our best. We promised that we'd be done by 1 o'clock today, so please keep your comments to 3 minutes. And I'll hold my hand up and do a timeout when you've reached 3 minutes. If we go over a little bit, it might be okay, but everybody basically might get up and leave right at 1 o'clock. So let's keep our comments brief. Librarians are going to talk about what's important to them in their libraries, and then if we have time, both Senator Eakin and Representative Lean will come up and speak. I'm going to read off the list of people who are here today, And as I read off your name, please hold up your hand so we can introduce one another. Also, we're videotaping this. Library Luncheon with Legislators will be on YouTube on Monday. And so if you want to share it with your colleagues, librarians, and legislators, we'll direct legislators to that website or to that YouTube video. So we welcome Senator Kent Eakin. Thank you for being here. Representative Ben Lean, thank you for being here today. And now the following librarians and library supporters are here. Laura Probst from Concordia College, if you want to hold up your hand. Christine Harms is not here today. She's from Northwest Regional Library System. Liz Lynch from Lake Agassiz Regional Library. Peg Werner from the Viking Library System. Terry Darko from Whiter. Owen Williams, University of Minnesota Crookston. Perry Werner, M State Libraries. Myself. Betsy Vins, she's the treasurer of the Northern Lights Library Board as well as the Lake Agassiz Regional Library. Carol Sibley is also not able to attend today. She just retired from MSUM in January and is on a long-deserved vacation. Jenna Cayley is here with Lake Agassiz Regional Library. She's the public library representative. Tammy Thomason Earhart is here. She's from Crookston with the Lake Agassiz Regional Library System. Gay Gaulis is here representing Moorhead Public Schools. And you can see that we have quite a nice representation from throughout the region. Charlie Lindbergh is here. Charlie lives in Kennedy, Minnesota, and she was a library media specialist. Was it 27 or 37 years?
Well, someplace over 20.
Over 20. And Ruth Holmgren is here. She also served for a long time in the Pelican Rapids Public Schools, and now is serving the public library there. Jordan Schreier is here. He's our communication specialist intern from MSUM. Paul Bursick is representing the Lake Agassiz Regional Library System. Linda Bates came all the way over from Parkers Prairie today. So happy to have you here. Wayne Ingersoll is our governing board president, and he's also the Clay County Commissioner. He has a few comments. And then there is on your table, there is the menu and the agenda. So follow that for determining who goes when. You'll see it's green and it's folded over. So you'll see who speaks next with that. So you might want to share that. There's one on each table. Does anybody not have that agenda? Okay. So let's go ahead and get started. Thank you, Wayne.
Thank you, Kathy. I'd like to welcome everybody here today who have come from many different places, and you are we're most appreciative of your presence. In particular, I'd like to welcome Senator Eakin and Representative Lean. Both gentlemen are true supporters of public libraries. They've proven that over and over. More importantly, however, in their position in the legislature, they do not look upon the opposite party as the enemy. They look upon them as colleagues whom they can work with and get things done for the benefit of everybody. And I think more than anything else, that shows the value we have placed in these two young gentlemen in representing us in this area. Once again, welcome to all of you, in particular Senator Eakin, Representative Lee.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm the relatively new director at Concordia College Library. I've been here in the community for a year and have enjoyed moving back to Minnesota and the Heartland from being in points east and south from here. Concordia College is, of course, as most of you know, a college of the Lutheran Church, but it's also a college of the community, where our alumni and our students are engaged in the community through the many jobs that they have in community activities. Our students are involved in internships and service learning opportunities and really see the community as part of their classroom. That's true for the library as well. And I wanted to talk with you today a little bit about the importance of the partnerships and the cooperative agreements that we have in the state that really help the Concordia Library serve the needs of our particular students in our particular community, but also then contributing to the broader growth of the library community in Minnesota We, of course, don't get funding from the state or from the legislature, but we very much support the funding that is provided to support library services across the state. Our partnerships are regional through Tri-College and through Northern Lights, but also at the state level through Minitex and the MinSCU, MinPal services. So we are closely integrated with the work that we do with the other libraries, and the funding that comes to those organizations is so important for supporting library services. We afford what we do because of the cost savings that we get through these cooperative partnerships, both for enterprise systems and for the digital content that we use through Minitex and through the Elm databases. So we can't do what we do at Concordia without that state network of libraries and the collaboration that we have with our colleagues. So as I take up my 3 minutes, and I'm probably close to the end of it, I guess that's the message that I want to give, that libraries are about cooperation and collaboration and coming together to support the needs of the people in all of the state. Concordia actually loans materials to others in the community more than we borrow materials from other parts of the community. So in Library Speak, we're a net lender through Interlibrary Loan, just one small example of the kinds of ways that we come together. But Concordia is happy to be here and happy to say thank you to our legislators for the support that you give us. And if you need to know anything else about what we do, you know where to find us. Thank you.
Well, Laura hit the nail on the head regarding cooperation, so I'll just say ditto and sit down. No, I won't really do that. My name is Liz Lynch, and I'm the director of the Lake Agassiz Regional Library System. And the Lake Agassiz, the headquarters are actually right here in Moorhead, located in the lower level of the Moorhead Library. We serve customers in 7 counties in this area. We serve customers in Polk, Clearwater, Norman, Mahnomen, Clay, Becker, and Wilkin counties. Within that geographic area, we have 13 branch libraries and 8 link sites. I'm sure that all librarians in this room, whether you're an academic librarian, school or public librarian, you've all been asked at some point, what's the future of libraries? And I always think it's such an interesting question, but in Lake Agassiz Regional Library right away in 2014, we hit a couple of bumps in the road where we had a couple of counties and a city that did not come through with our full funding request. And unfortunately, we had to reduce some services in some of these locations. This isn't a pity party speech, by the way. There is some good that came out of it. So as the announcement was made, especially in Moorhead, the media picked up the story that there would be no more Sunday hours at the Moorhead Library, and there would be a few reductions in hours in Moorhead. The media picked this up, and supporters for libraries came out of the woodwork and spoke up for their local libraries. And it was really great. I expected to see and hear from individuals. I heard so many individuals telling fantastic stories about the impact that libraries have had on their own lives. But what was really, I shouldn't say surprising, but what I really found motivating is the response that we heard from local state agencies, organizations, and clubs in the area that really talked about the importance that the libraries play in the success of the individuals that they serve as well. And it was just kind of an eye-opening experience to hear about, for instance, the Minnesota Workforce Center, talking about how sad they were to hear about the limited hours at the Moorhead Library. Because at the Workforce Center, for instance, they have limited staff, limited hours, and limited computers. And they refer a lot of their clients to the Moorhead Public Library. Head Start is another classic example of a great partnership between libraries and organizations. Not only do Head Start staff members use the library for meetings and to meet with families, but also the Head Start teachers really try to get the families of Head Start to use the library services and materials as well. And so when people ask me what's the future of libraries, I'm not thinking of ebooks and the Jetsons. What I'm really thinking about is The mission of libraries is what it's always been. It's to serve the community and the individuals living within the community. So, 3 minutes.
Hi, I'm Peg Werner from the Viking Library System. Viking Library System is a federated regional library system, and federated in an area that's mostly consolidated means that our libraries are autonomous administrative units. So the cities fund them, they hire their own staff, buy their own books, write their own policies, run completely separately. So what Viking does as a regional library system is to provide the connecting pieces. And Kathy started out very well by saying it's all about resource sharing, and that's what we really do. We provide what a librarian would call an ILS, what people in this room who are not librarians might call the computers you see when you walk into the library, same thing. We also provide broadband, wireless internet, as do all public libraries in Minnesota. And the delivery system that connects all of the things that we're moving around, and also the interlibrary loan work that's required. So we move things amongst the libraries in our system, but then we also are the node that connects to move them throughout the state. And Minnesota is really a nationwide leader in doing interlibrary loan, partially because we have Midlink, but partially because we have a delivery system that just works in and out. Everything goes to St. Paul, is sorted overnight. It flies out of St. Paul and lands in Fargo and Sioux Falls and places in Wisconsin and is sorted and goes on. So it's really incredible, and Viking does that piece of it. The counties we cover are Douglas, Grant, Otter Tail, Pope, Stevens, and Traverse. I know very few directors that don't know them in alphabetical order and can't say them out of alphabetical order. And in those counties there are 11 member libraries that we serve as well. Besides being the sort of connecting piece to public libraries, we also do a little bit of public service. And for the people who do it, they would say we do a lot of public service. We run bookmobiles throughout those 6 counties. It is our 3rd largest circulating library, so our bookmobiles are very well used. We also do drop collections, which means we drop something off, pick up what's there, and take it and exchange it. And so we do drop collections to group homes, daycares, Head Starts, and nursing homes throughout those 6 counties. And they're very, very popular programs and well received. That is a very quick summary of Viking Library System, but with Kathy's indulgence, because this is a legislative luncheon, I'd like to take a few minutes and review the platform. Platform is on the table in front of you. It is burgundy and gold. And while you're looking at it, I want to say that this is a Minnesota Library Association and a Minnesota Educational Media Organization joint platform. So this is K-12 schools, public and academic libraries joint platform. Minnesota Library Association has a new logo this year, the little gold thing, which I am at an absolute loss to explain, so I'm just going to let that one go. As you all know, Minnesota has a biennial budget. The odd-numbered years are appropriation, even-numbered years are bonding. So 2014 is a bonding year. Because it's a bonding year, our platform reflects that in the most part. The first plank that you see is a $3 million bill for construction. Construction is obviously a bonding thing. This is for public library construction. It can be accessibility, it can be expansion and remodeling, or it can be new building, whichever library is going for. Right now there are $20 million in projects that will be applying for this $3 million in funds, and it is matching money, so it's 50%. Obviously, if you're building a new library building, you're not building it for $2 million, but it's a wonderful sort of starting point for any community. If you can tell them that you can go after $500,000 or $1 million in matching funds from the state, it really jumpstarts projects. We've had this funding for probably 12 years now, and it usually comes in at about $1.5 million. We used to ask for 10 every year, and I see now we're asking for 3. The second plank on the platform. This is what I would consider more of an appropriations year request. But there has not been in Minnesota, as you know, for many, many years, since 2008, any real money. So people that needed real money just plain didn't ask. It didn't seem worth it. This is a request for $6 billion for K-12 schools for something they call telecom equity aid. It's for broadband and internet access, the same thing that public libraries do. Normally K-12 schools and public libraries go in together and ask for these requests. This year, the public libraries are doing okay, I think for one more year. I think we'll be in next year during the appropriations year. But genuinely, the schools have been cut out for too long. The year before the money sort of disappeared, the year before the economy in the United States crashed, was a year that the schools didn't get their funding. They were at $7.75 billion for a long time. And that year, for whatever reason, you know, things happen, it was 3.75. Because the economy had collapsed right after that, it stayed at that number, and it should not have been all those years. So for them to come back during a bonding year and ask for this amount of money is totally appropriate. They absolutely desperately need it, and the public library community fully backs this request to the hilt. This is something they really need. We call it a 3-for-1. I'll tell you this really, really quickly. It used to be when kids walked into a media center or when people walked into a public library, you could assume that they might have a device. They might sit down and they might want to use your wireless. Now they walk in, their phone is tuned to pick up any wireless they can. They leave it in their pocket, but it picks up your wireless and it picks up your filtering license. They sit down and they turn on an iPad because they're having a conversation with somebody which picked up another wireless connection and another filtering device, and then they turn on their laptop and do their work. So we call them 3-fers because they picked up 3 of your licenses and 3 of your wireless connections, which are held from anywhere from an hour to 24 hours. And so you can see how this multiplies and multiplies. That's why they need $6 million. Last thing is not really a plank. It's a very interesting thing. It's something that the American Library Association is trying to do nationwide. Minnesota is part of it. This is to ask each of the legislatures to come together, and we don't know when this is going to be. Platform's written in October, goes to the legislature in February, and this could happen in April, but you've got to plan because you don't know when it's going to happen. But they're trying to get all the states together to say to the major 5 publishers, there's 5 publishers essentially in the United States right now, that you can't gouge public libraries for ebooks. If you buy an ebook on Amazon, it's $19.99. If you buy the same book for a public library, it's $79.99. And these publishers agreed on this, and they agreed because what they said, and you know, at first we sort of dismissed it as a mistake because what they said is, but more than one person reads it. Really? It's a public library, seriously? We hope more than one person reads it. And so eventually when we had to sit down with the publishers, the ALA said, but you do realize those books we've been buying from you for 200 years are also read by more than one person at a public library. And we thought that they would get that and say, oh yeah, what were we thinking? But it did not happen that way. So they continue to charge us for that, and now it's gotten to the point where we get 26 circulations. If we circulate it 26 times, we have to buy a new one. So we're looking to get all the legislators together and in one fell swoop say, this is not fair. And that's what that plank is about. Thank you very much, Kathy. That's Viking Library System and in the platform, and I'm sure more than 3 minutes.
Hi, my name's Owen Williams. I'm the director of the library at the University of Minnesota Crookston campus. And I'm going to try to keep my 3 minutes very closely, but I'm not sure if everyone knows, but the University of Minnesota Crookston is part of a land-grant institution. And the library, like the institution, takes that very seriously. We serve not just the faculty, staff, and students and researchers at the university, but the region as well. We try to do that in every way we can. I am one of probably the few people here I've had the honor of serving on the Northern Lights Library Network and the Crookston Public Library Board, as well as being the director of the UMC Library. And I find all 3 roles, and I also volunteer at the public schools as well. So it's interesting, the mesh of all these, and I find it valuable to see the other side of the coin all the time. I'm just not part of the academic community, but the public and the school libraries as well. I do classes as part of my outreach, what I consider it, as for about a dozen classes, and one of the teachers is actually sitting here who had to suffer through some of my lectures of how to find stuff. And I find it very interesting, and the value of the local high schools of doing research and preparing the high school's students for the academic rigors of a university. And I find that as part of my mission as well. I'm just going to look quickly. I want to put a plug in for Minitex and for the Elm databases. In northwestern Minnesota, I'm here to tell you that if we didn't have these Elm databases, the students in northwestern Minnesota for sure, and I can probably speak for other places, would be without, and would be the have-nots as opposed to the haves. They just don't have money in these school systems for these databases, and we're doing a disservice to the students and future leaders if we don't prepare these by using the Elm database, and we're very grateful for them, I'll tell you that. The collaboration for libraries, we beat this to get, but it's the truth. Libraries have been long-time collaborators. We've been sharing things, we've been talking, not just within the University of Minnesota, there's 5 campuses, but with the MNSCU and with the privates as well, and that's part of our mission. We've been doing that for a long time, and we're very proud of that. Even during the tough times when the left side can't talk to the right side, we can talk to the other libraries and we're sharing things, and I'm very proud of that. One thing that hasn't been talked about is the traditional roles of the library have been added to. One thing that we're doing, and I know a lot of these other places are doing as well, we're not just, historically what we do is we gather items, we disseminate items, and we teach users how to use them. Libraries and librarians are now adding to this body of knowledge. At our library, we're scanning our archives, we're scanning what I call important or rare information, we're putting them out on the internet, and so people from across the United States and the world, and I can regale you with stories of people, I'll just tell one. We scanned some items and I got an email from somebody from Africa. This is Crookston, Minnesota we're talking here, right? And she was looking for a family picture, and we scanned some historical things for Polk County, and she found a picture of her family from about, the late 50s, I suspect. And so anyway, I scanned it, I put it, and I sent it to her, and so she's hanging it on her wall in Africa right now, this only family picture she's ever had. So, and your brother was a student at UMC, so he can go now and he can find his picture from UMC. It's a new role for libraries. We're all doing it, and it really is a good service that we're providing the providers of citizens. Thank you.
Very good.
Hi everyone, my name is Terry Darko and I work with the White Earth Early Childhood Program in White Earth, and I have the opportunity to come here and tell you a little bit about our library, which is not a traditional library. In White Earth, we know that 1/3 of our children are being served by Head Start, 1/3 of our children are being served by child cares, in-home child cares, center-based child cares, and 1/3 of our children are not being reached at all by any of our preschool programming. So we need to take time, since we do not at this moment have a public library in White Earth, to think outside of the box and reach those children who are not being served. And we also know that from the age of 0 to 3 years of age, children are learning to read. And at the age, or 3rd grade, 0 to 3rd grade, children are learning to read. And from 3rd grade on, they're reading to learn. And so we know how important literacy is for children. And so different ways in White Earth that we've been able to help get books out to children and promote books and time with parents and children to make those really special bonds. We had a Read Mobile that we've taken out in the last few years, and it's a beautiful big blue bus, and on the side of the bus there's pictures of children and parents reading together, and we go to every community on the reservation, and we go into homes, and we go into centers, and we go into schools. And just this last year, our bus retired on us. It no longer works, and so it's parked outside, and inside this bus was shelves of beautiful books that families would come and read with their children. The bus is no longer working, and it's too expensive for our program to fix. And so we wrote a grant with the Northern Lights Library Network, and we obtained a grant for a public library. And we received $121,000. It was an IMLS grant, the Institute for Museum and Library Services, which will help us with phase 1. So as part of that grant, we had at the Old Circle Life School that we were going to house the library in. And we had it all set. Well, now in the meantime, that school is actually a condemned school, and so we're no longer able to put the library into the school. But we had a different idea. One day, Kathy Enger and I went to Ogama for a book fair, and in the Ogama school, we saw these beautiful mobile bookshelves. And they had books, and you could just close, and they're on wheels. And so we decided, wouldn't it be great if we do not have a building to house our library, if we actually we wrote a letter to Scholastic to see if they would donate 12 of these bookshelves for us. And we took these bookshelves, loaded them up, and went out into the communities to the people so they didn't have to come to us. And so we're waiting. We haven't heard on the bookshelves yet, but our goal is to get these shelves and go out into the communities, set 12 of these shelves up into a huge circle, and invite families to come in. And we can bring them to parks, we can bring them to child cares, we can bring them to the schools, but we're bringing them to them where they can come and be together with their children and do a lot of learning. And so we're really excited about that. And another thing that we're doing with the library grant dollars is we're building little wigwam-free libraries that we'll put out into the communities where children and families always have access to books. And we know that in our area, many of our children do not go to school at the same level as their peers. And so it's just really a passion of mine and the Northern Lights Library Network and so many people and partners around us to get all of our children at the same level so that they can have a successful future. So just a little bit about White Earth, and thank you.
Hello, I'm Perry Werner from M-State or MSCTC. I was glad to donate some of my time to PEG, and Laura's come up with some of my ideas, and so did Owen, so mine's going to be very short, okay? I've been a librarian for 44 years, and I've been at the MSCTC for 21, finishing up my 21st year. And I would like to say, I'm going to repeat something that Owen said, that we do need the databases that he talked about, ELM, and to support Minitex. That is a big thing. He said we might be without, and that's absolutely true, that those databases do help our students a great deal. There's others that we purchase just special for our students, but those are some key ones. And I want to if anything comes up, I want you to support those if you will, please. Okay, I work here, Moorhead is my main campus, but I also work on the Wadena campus and the Detroit Lakes campus. MSCTC has 4 campuses, and that's the 3 that I work on, and Fergus Falls has their own librarian. So I kind of work here mainly, and then I go there as needed, and our libraries support the programs that are on those campuses. I mean, Detroit Lakes, we support the Marine, the Marine Engine, because that's one of the programs we have, power sports, and radiology. In Wadena, we support, the library supports by buying materials, resources, the cosmetology program, the lineman program. In Fergus Falls, we support the equine program. Here, we support the dental program. So that's what we do. Our libraries are made, they're small, but they're developed to, for our clientele, whatever their needs are. We are supplying it. We try, and so ELM is one of the needs. ELM is one of the databases that kind of fit our general needs. We kind of, since we have those, we kind of aim at, can spend our money on the more specific ones. Like I said, radiology, dentistry, things like that, because we have those programs. So we really appreciate those. But that's who we support. We support a very diverse population, and by diverse, I mean we have the campus. We have on-campus students. We have online students, we have post-secondary option students, and we have concurrent students. So, in all total, we have about 6,000 students that we support, and they're all around. And when I say this, I was thinking of an example of, we have 3 databases that we buy specifically for a marketing program, but our students in Montevideo, who are concurrent students, they have to have access to those too. So, you know, we supply all kinds of information electronically. You might look at our collections, and like I said, we're small, and we have maybe 60,000 items for print or non-print items to check out. But we supply, with help of Elm and some of the databases we purchase, we supply 120,000 books, e-books, for reference, okay? And we lease some of those. And we supply 20,000 journals. And thank you very much. That went so fast.
You done.
Okay, my name is Linda Bates, and I'm from Parkers Prairie, Minnesota. It's about an hour and 40 minutes from here. It's a small community of 1,000 people. We have 524 students in our district. We have 2 schools, an elementary and high school. We each have specialists in each building. This is not your library of old. What you remember about libraries when you grew up, they're totally different. I refer to myself as a device technician. And our children and our students learn today with wireless mobile devices. We have approximately 300 computers in our district, and in our media center we have 12 to 15 desktops. I have 30 Chromebooks, I have iPads, I have every gadget that you can think of. And I help all the students with whatever they need. Before I forget too, I want to put a plug in for Elm. It's just a godsend for a small community, not only for the students in school, but for the community. We do what we can for all our people. We're 20 miles from Alexandria, so if people need access to internet, they come to our library. And I set them up with a guest password, and they're off doing whatever they are trying to accomplish. I also provide students with laptops to borrow out, Chromebooks, they can check them out overnight, especially for word processing, any of those things. We want to have the playing field equal. Our teachers have been very liberal, and we allow the students to bring their iPads and their iPhones to the classrooms, and that just helps with the classroom. We haven't issued iPads to everybody like some schools yet. We hope to in the future, but that just helps the teachers out if they're able to use their own and get to the same website as their peers. And so we need support to purchase those kinds of items, make them available to the community and especially to our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, we have 1 minute left, and I'm going to vote. Do we have time to hear from our 2 legislators? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Would you like to start, Senator? Okay, thank you.
Well, I want to thank you for all the good work that you're doing, first of all, and I think you serve as a good model for the rest of government, really, as far as the cooperation and all the progress that you've been making in that regard. I would, I guess, counsel that we try to expand on that. There was a discussion about how libraries really serve as continuing education, and really it is a unified force with our education system in this state. And oftentimes I find it, there was an interesting story that I know one of our legislators, one of my colleagues, liked to use in the House, and that was, he said that as the water hole starts to shrink, all the animals around it start to look at each other in different ways. And what he meant by that is that you see a lot of good folks starting to compete with each other over the limited resources instead of working with each other. And one thing I pointed out to him was that the water hole, though, I didn't think it was drying up, it was being drained by certain people, and that what we need to do is we need to work together to try to make sure the pool of resources there is adequate to meet our needs for education generally. And I don't want to see a situation where we see libraries pitted against K-12 schools, or K-12 against early childhood, or early childhood against higher education. We're all in the same business together of educating and providing opportunity for the citizens of our state, especially the young people, making sure they have an opportunity to develop to their fullest potential, and that helps all of our society. So I would counsel that what you've been doing between the libraries in our state, that we expand on that to cooperate with all of the educational community to come together in a cooperative effort to make sure that all of our children have this opportunity. So again, you setting a great example. One of those pools that we're talking about was the bonding. You were mentioning about the importance of the bonding bill this year. We have about $3 billion worth of proposals out there and projects. We're only going to have about $1 billion to work with. So there's a lot of competition over those dollars, and I think there's no better place for us to be spending these dollars than in education, and libraries is an important part of that. So, yes. And I mentioned there was a lot of talk about the Minitex as well, and I did carry the bill last year for increasing the funding for Minitex. I believe that that's critically important as well, so I'll continue fighting on that front. And again, just want to thank you for all that you're doing. And you'd mentioned the gouging too. I have a daughter right now that's in college over here at Concordia, and so we know what textbooks are costing, and I do believe that we need to do something in that regard too. It's a critical component to making sure we provide access to all the resources that are out there for our citizens. So again, thank you so much, and thank you.
Well, I'd first like to thank you all for the invitation to join you today. I know the work you all do is really incredibly valued for the communities and the folks that we serve in these communities. And I've heard the same stories from the Workforce Council folks saying, you know, some of these library computer resources are really the only thing some people have to get out there and look for work. So, you know, I really can't say enough as to how valuable the libraries and the resources to these communities are. As Senator Eakin mentioned, this will be the bonding year with a very large bonding proposal Governor Dayton put out there, about $986 million, which is incredibly significant if we think about recent bonding bills being more toward $500, $600 million. And you know, not to mention just the, taking advantage of the interest rates and some of the low construction costs still right now. But also putting people to work, putting our communities back to work. And so I think this is a really good initiative, and I certainly can get behind you know, any initiative that's going to put more resources for libraries, more building of libraries. I know in Moorhead here there was kind of a tough fight recently just to, you know, dole out those resources, and there is a lot of competition out there. So anything we can do to help out the communities and really the value, putting the value back into the communities through the libraries, I think. I'd also like to touch on the broadband. There's been a lot of talk in the within legislators here the last couple months about a really really ambitious broadband bill and a broadband proposal, specifically for Greater Minnesota. I've heard numbers somewhere around $100 million being put into broadband infrastructure just for Greater Minnesota. So I think this is something that's going to benefit all of us from education, or I should say not just education and libraries, but this is something the business community is really getting behind as well. So, you know, again, I do appreciate the invitation, the opportunity to meet you all and hear from you all, hear your stories. That's it's one thing, and I think Representative Marquardt has said this, it's one thing to be, you know, in the legislature and looking at spreadsheets and numbers, but to actually hear the stories from folks as to what this means to our people, I think is really, really the best story you can tell and goes the furthest. So thank you.
Well, again, the luncheon was sponsored by Northern Lights Library Network Governing Board. We'd like to thank the Governing Board for sponsoring us today, so let's thank the board. And for being here and representing libraries, and for the legislators that were here. We're so grateful for the work you're doing. Thank you so much. Let's have a prosperous year, okay?
Thank you for your thoughts. Good to be with you again.